Let's talk recruiting because you know what, Mike? With a 3-3 Irish football team, there's no conference title to look forward to. We're just kind of looking ahead maybe to a bowl game. People want to know about the future of this Notre Dame football team, and there are holes to fill on this current roster. So there's really nothing better to do right now than talk to Irish fans about some guys that are going to be possibly wearing that Notre Dame helmet in the future and hopefully a part of the turnaround again of this Notre Dame football team. I want to start with wide receiver recruiting. There's always a debate about the current wide receivers on the roster. And hey, Tobias Merriweather, a couple of routes looked pretty doggone good, didn't he? Including that touchdown catch. Should have had two.
He was really good. I was kind of in the camp of just trust the coaches on why they haven't played him yet. I'm not in that camp anymore. So
Watch the
he's really been
replays on
good.
NBC and the breaking down of the plays. He was highly efficient and textbook running those routes, which makes you stop and think, man, oh man, what is going on in practice where they aren't seeing that or something? But it was good to see Tobias make an impact in that game. But 24 wide receiver recruiting. On3 have their rankings, of course, and Cam Williams made a big jump in the rankings. Why don't you give us some insight on Cam Williams and talk about the jump he made in the rankings?
Yeah. So in rankings, Darren, here's the thing. There's always going to be bumps for your commits, and there's going to be drops, and then anything in between is typically a small slide, because if you're not actively moving up in these rankings, you're just naturally moving down because of the people who are moving up, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So CJ Carr, Notre Dame's quarterback commit, took a bit of a tumble, but let's focus on the positives, because I know folks just focus on the negatives. So we're just gonna, in this discussion about 2024 receiver recruiting, we're gonna focus on the Cam Williams bump here. He went from outside the top 100 nationally to the number 21 overall player per On3's own rankings and the number 5 receiver. So want to clarify, and articles of Blue and Gold and our YouTube videos we talk about the On3 consensus, which equally weighs all 4 media outlets: Rivals, On3, ESPN, and 24/7. So On3's rankings only are a quarter of that consensus in terms of how much it's weighed, but On3 did update its rankings. So that's what we're talking about in this video. So again, number 21 overall player, number 5 wide receiver, and I'm told this bump was due to not only his big time junior production at Glenbard South in Glen Ellen, Illinois. It's his testing numbers over the summer in terms of his length, his speed, and then you see those two things combined with his physicality on Friday nights and production. Cam Williams has just been fantastic. And look, he's a near 5-star prospect at this point. On3 only has 3 5-star players in the 2024 class. And as time goes on, more players will be added. Cam Williams is one of those early on. And Darren, I'm just going to run through 3 more 2024 wide receiver targets, just kind of give the latest on those recruitments. It was really a St. Louis invasion at Notre Dame over the weekend. You had the running back Jeremiyah Love, who I'm sure we'll touch on the show, the 2023 back who did commit to Notre Dame on Saturday. He was on campus. His teammate Jeremiah McClellan is a 4-star wide receiver in the 24 class, who I am extremely high on. I think that he's a cross between like a Lorenzo Styles and Avery Davis in terms of his gameplay, but I think he has a higher ceiling than those guys. I think McClellan is just the sky's really the limit for him. So he was on campus. I talked to him. You can find that article at blueandgold.com probably later this week. He's a guy to keep an eye on. He had a great time at Notre Dame. Love committing has an impact on him. He's close friends with Ryan Wingo, St. Louis University High 2024 receiver, number 14 overall player, number 5 receiver per the On3 consensus in the 2024 class. So McClellan told me that, look, Love's a big deal to him committing. Get Ryan Wingo. Him and McClellan are tight. So it's a big deal. Like Notre Dame in the St. Louis pipeline is looking really good. So Wingo, this was his 3rd time on campus since June. So I like Notre Dame to land Wingo, and I've had a prediction in since the summer for him to land with the Irish. And somewhat confident in that prediction. It's no guarantee, but do believe that Notre Dame's the leader. And lastly, I was in the state of Florida this past Friday and got to take a look at Tampa Carrollwood Day wide receiver Bredell Richardson. Cut 3 passes around 40 yards or so, couple of short receptions, and then a little post down the field where he caught a touchdown. His team really blew out the opposition. So you did get to see a ton of Richardson, but talked to him after the game and asked him about recruiting and the main schools involved. And he mentioned Notre Dame, first. That's the first school that came out of his mouth. That's typically a good sign. So he's a top 100 player, number 99 overall prospect and number 18 receiver. So Notre Dame has to tie this all together, Darren. Notre Dame has a really good recruiting class in 2023 at wide receiver. Jaden Greathouse, Rico Flores, Braylon James, and then maybe they get Tayshawn Lyons from California. They can follow that up with a darn good receiver class in 24. You got Cam Williams already committed. And then can they lock up a couple of those guys we just talked about, Darren? But overall, it's looking good early on.
Blue and Gold's Mike Singer talking Notre Dame football recruiting on WSBT Radio. You mentioned Jeremiyah Love, the running back. You've praised him for a good amount of time, including on last week's segment with me. So I guess it shouldn't be much of a surprise that Love has found his brand new home with the Fighting Irish.
It depends.
Okay.
That's an interesting question. Like, if you're going to tell me, Mike, were you surprised he committed Saturday? No, I wasn't, because I knew he was committing on Saturday. This is just how these things go. And I've liked Notre Dame to land him since August. But when you take a step back and you look at, he had offers from Alabama and Georgia and Texas A&M. Yes, Texas A&M, the school that seems to be getting just about anyone they want these days, because just the whole NIL factor with the Aggies. So for Notre Dame to beat A&M head-to-head in this one, and that was really his final twos, Notre Dame and A&M, that's an impressive recruiting win. So I think in that sense, it was a little surprising. But look, Love, when I asked him about why he committed to Notre Dame, and he tells me, look, I love both schools. My family love both schools. But I just think at the end of the day, Notre Dame's academics is going to help me more in the long run. So even if I'm speculating here, even if A&M had a nice little NIL thing, which they're not supposed to, but, just semantics aside there, even if it was maybe more upfront, he kind of saw the long picture with Notre Dame, the 4 for 40. So again, a very impressive recruiting win for the Irish.